Well, good morning, everybody. We are sending this machine back to Canada today. And I thought I'd play a little bit of Canadian theme music. Here's the Canadian National Anthem. And that is the Canadian National Anthem, because you might remember the story on this machine. This machine was packed very carefully by Greg and sent all the way from British Columbia. And that was after the machine had sat at the PFAFF Specialty Repair Center up there in Vancouver for 5 weeks. And the folks up there at the PFAFF Specialty Repair Center could not get this machine to work. And Greg did some searching and some digging, found this YouTube channel and said, this guy knows a lot about vintage sewing machines. Maybe he can figure out what the Canadian specialty repair people could not. Well, we did. In about 15 minutes after having it on the workbench a number of weeks ago, I identified the areas that needed to be adjusted and tweaked and all that good stuff, that workshop magic. And now this machine proudly is heading back to the beautiful country of Canada for Melinda to enjoy making specialty bags. That's what she does. And if you didn't join us for the last one, I'll see if I can pull up those photos again and show you the bags that Melinda has already made on another machine. And now she's going to be putting this one together and using the decorative ornamental stitches that are part of this sewing machine, model 360. In German, you might remember I told you the last time, in German, it's a model 360. 360 is what this model is. And this card, I don't think I pointed it out in the last live stream when I presented this machine. This card has 2 sides to it. And it's important to highlight that so you don't use the wrong side for the wrong application. This side is used for single needle sewing. And this side is used for twin needle sewing. So if you have twin needles in this model 360, yes, you can sew with 2 threads on this machine. Most of the PFAFF machines, you can sew with 2 threads. With a twin needle, you use this side. Single needle, you use this side. Now, if you make the mistake and you set this machine to sew with a single needle on this side, you're still going to get the pattern, but it's going to be teeny tiny. It's going to shrink it down because it's designed for that double needle to give it that greater girth and that greater width. So twin needle, single needle, okay? And when you're changing between the specialty patterns over here, the ones that are in blue right here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them, I believe. This is going to require a different stitch width. You're going to go from 0 to 1.5. When you're going from this pattern series over to this pattern series or vice versa, you'll want to make sure that you take Control C. Let me show you which one that is. Hold on a second. You're going to want to make sure you take Control C and zero it out. If you're set somewhere between 1 to 5, you'll want to take this and take it to 0, and then make your settings with the 1.5 setting over here in the stitch width, and then turn this back to the proper setting. Example would be, you set this down. We were sewing this pattern, for example, that one right there. You would zero out your Control C, and then you would turn it back to 3. You would adjust your needle position over here to the left needle position, and then you would set your Control D on top, which is underneath the hood here, right here. You would set your Control D to 4 for that particular pattern. And the same is true if you were going from this specialty series here, over to one of these basic pattern series. You would zero out your Control C again. There it is. You would zero out your Control C, turn it to 0. You'll hear a click underneath here, and then you can set your series for these basic ornamental stitches. I shouldn't say basic because they're quite extraordinary, aren't they? But these mechanical the Husqvarna machines, I've shown you on this channel innumerable times, you sometimes have to zero out that mechanism in order to get it to engage properly. So just remember that. If you have a little bit of an issue, take your Control C to 0, set all of your other points, set your Control C, let that cam stack spin around, and you should be in good shape, okay? All right, enough of that. Really, the purpose of this live stream today is to pack up this machine and to send it back to Vancouver, British Columbia. And that's why we have our Canadian Mountie out here today. So I'm going to move our buddy out of the way, and let's get this machine packing. Heading it back to Canada, and I'm going to be sending all of the sew-offs that we did with it. These sew-offs, you might remember, were from those specialty blue stitches. These ones right here. We did that on the last live stream on this. And then a lot of the other great stitches that this machine does as well. On a variety of materials, we had genuine cowhide. We had 100% cotton with stiffener. We had denim because Melinda loves to sew on denim with bags. A lot of cool stitches there as well. More of the leather. Did a lot of the leather sewing on the last live stream. And just a variety of different things. And I had shown you when I was initially zeroing this machine in, and you can do the same thing at home if you get a machine and you're wanting to test it. You can always sew on paper and get some really cool illustrations of how that machine is performing. So I'm going to set those to the side. Also going to be sending back the old light bulb that was in the machine. I put a brand new one in there that has better node output. It provides better light. We're sending back the service manual, which I didn't use. I'm guessing the folks up in Canada at the PFAFF Specialty Repair Center probably went through this and they're thinking, what's going on? We can't figure out what's wrong. And that's because this service manual covers certain aspects of the machine, but it doesn't go into those intricate details that this machine needed. So this service manual will go back to Greg and Melinda, along with the automatic operator's manual as well. And again, remember that this series, whether it's the service manual or the operating manual, is going to cover 3 distinct machines. Does anyone remember what the machines are? What machines does the service and the operating manual what 3 machines does the service and the operating manual cover? One of them is obviously the 360. There's 2 other machines. See if you can remember what that is. And I'll put on just a little bit more Canadian music. We don't get a ton of machines out of Canada, so it's always fun to honor that great country. that sovereign nation, not the 51st state like President Trump tried to imply. Canada is Canada. Leave it alone. So again, to honor our Canadian friends that love vintage sewing machines and love cow country, I'm going to play the Canadian anthem one more time while you're trying to guess what those other two models are that can use the same stitch card, they can use the same service manual, they can use the same operating manual. All right, here we go. The Canadian national anthem. So if you're sitting down, doggone it, stand up like I am and honor that great nation. I love Canada. Yes, I do. All right, I am typing the answer in because I know that Kevin and Susie are having a great opportunity to get to know a little bit more about each other. That's the beauty of the Cow Country family, is it's so much fun to meet people from around the country, from around the world that share our love of vintage sewing machines. So I'm typing the answers. I'm just getting ready to post it in the live chat. The three models that share the same stitch card, the same service manual, and the same operating manual. If you ever run into that where you've got all three of those models, don't buy a stitch card 3 times, don't buy a service manual 3 times, and don't buy an operating manual 3 times. Buy one set and it'll cover all 3 machines. All right, getting ready to send it right now and post it. Manuals and stitch card. I'm not the greatest typist, but I try. I try really hard. All right, there you go. So the model 260, which in German is 260, the model 360, which we have in front of us right now that's heading back to Canada, is 360. And then finally, the last model that shares all of the manuals and the stitch card is the model 368. And in German, that is said 368. In Germany, if you have a 3-digit number, the last 2 digits you switch when you say it. So where you would look at 368 and you would say, isn't that said 386? No, you have to switch the last 2 numbers. So it's 368. Just like here, if this were, let's just say instead of 360, let's say it was 365. If this were 365, you would say 365. So if you ever want to practice a little bit of German and you're trying to say the numbers and they're 3 digits, remember the last 2 digits, you flip them when you say it. Okay? All right. We all learn together, don't we? It's fun to learn new things. And that's what this channel is about. We're all fellow teachers because we can learn from each other. And we're always fellow students. We're always learning, right? That's the beauty of being a part of this family. So let's get into the packing process now, finally. I'll put on a little bit of music while I'm getting things set up. And then we'll begin packing this machine very carefully. If you're ever wanting to send a machine to Susie and myself, we've got a whole playlist of packing videos that show you how to pack different style machines. You sometimes have to adapt our methods a little bit to pack them depending on the style of the machine, if it's in a base and etc. If it's in a bentwood cover, it's a different operation. And we've got examples of that on this channel. And we've been able to so far successfully pack and ship machines as far away as Australia, Germany, Switzerland, and a variety of other places. We've shipped machines to Hawaii without any damage, and it's because of our process. So hopefully this is helpful to you today if you're wanting to send a Model 360 or any of the other model series that are similar to this. So let me put on a little bit more music and we'll jump into this. Let's see. Totally out of the scope of German and German type sewing machines, but I'm going to put on some ragtime this morning just for fun. All right, I'm going to put our Canadian Mountie away, at least temporarily. All right, I'm going to pause the music for just a moment. There we go. And I should also point out, you might see in the background there, kind of can see, yeah, right over there. You see in the background, there's two machines. They look like they're twins, don't they? These two machines that look like they're twins in the back are, well, let me ask you this question. Again, I shouldn't just give you the answers. I should also make you work for it a little bit, right? So these are part of the Slant-O-Matic series. I'm going to give you a couple of hints here. These are part of the Slant-O-Matic series put out by Singer. And they are the machine in that series that are only straight stitch sewing machines. All they do is a straight stitch. So if anyone wants to try to guess what model that is, or I should say what model these are, because they're on the workbench now, and I'm trying to make one machine out of two. I'm not making that up. This machine over here on the right, Sibel out of Brooklyn, New York, bought this on eBay, this one on the right. She bought it on eBay, and the seller painted a pretty picture. They said, oh, this machine is ready to go. It's been serviced. It's in great condition. It's in great shape. No, it isn't. It's got so many issues with it that when Sibel sent it some time ago to Susie and I believe it was sent to us while we were in Minneapolis, all the way from Brooklyn, New York. When I started to go through that machine and I listed all of the things that it needed, I said to Sibel, I said, why don't I go into my personal collection and get another model identical to it, and we can build off of that solid foundation instead of this fractured, messed up location over here. And I'll basically pull the best off of this, which there isn't much, and I'll put it onto this machine that's from my collection. And then you'll have a great machine when it gets back out to Brooklyn, New York. She said, that would be fabulous. I said, not to mention it'll save you hundreds of dollars from me having to repair or replace all the parts that are bad on this one. So just be careful. If you go onto eBay, there are some great treasures to be found. Susie and I buy a lot of stuff on eBay, not necessarily sewing machines, but other things. But just be careful. Sellers are not always going to give you the full picture. And sometimes it's because they don't know any better. Someone else gave it to them, or they bought it from someone else and they said to them, it's a great machine. So then they go to resell it and flip it to try to make a little bit of money. And they tell that next buyer, hey, it's a great machine, when it's not. So just be real careful. And I've had people contact me all the time about, they're looking at a particular machine on Goodwill online. They're looking at a machine on Facebook Marketplace. They're looking at a machine on eBay, on Etsy, wherever it is. And they're wanting to know, how do I know? How do I know if that's a good machine or a lemon? Well, you know what? If I'm not there to examine it, it's kind of hard. But I do give them some pointers. I tell them, first of all, if you're physically there, in other words, if you're going to somebody's house to look at a machine, have them do a sew off, or you do a sew off right there, so you can see the stitch quality, so you can listen to the machine. And you don't need a stethoscope like I use on certain machines to diagnose sounds. If you ever want to have a little bit of fun, pick one of these up at Harbor Freight or else. But these are fabulous. You hear a machine running and you hear a sound. You can't pinpoint, where is that sound coming from? Is it down by the raceway? Is it on the top? Is it on the bottom? Because when the machine is running, that sound can really, really get distorted and you can't tell where it's originating. So you could pick one of these up, a stethoscope, and this is used in automotive applications. The best mechanics, when they're listening to a motor, if they're trying to figure out, I'm hearing a ticking sound. Is it the lifters? Is it a piston? What is it? They put this on, and then they put this against that machine, that motor, and they start listening with that machine, and they finally zero in. Aha! It's over here. This is where it's loudest. And then all of a sudden you can pinpoint where that sound is coming from. And these are ridiculously cheap at Harbor Freight, at Ace Hardware. They probably sell them other places. I want to say I paid like $5 for these, and they have saved me so many times, a lot of time in pinpointing where there is an issue on a particular sewing machine. So check out one of those great retailers and pick up a pair for yourself, so you can begin listening to your machines. And then your neighbors and your friends are going to start saying, you are the machine, the sewing machine whisperer, because you can hear sounds that we can't. Wonderful, wonderful tools to use. So consider picking up a pair, and you'll be able to figure things out with your machines much, much faster. Okay. So let me go back to a little bit of music, and we're going to begin packing this machine. You might have noticed right away, one of the first things I do when I'm going to be shipping a machine is I put something underneath the presser foot, some of that material that was sewed off on it, like this beautiful piece of 100% cowhide, and then I rotate that needle down. Never, ever, 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 if you're not actively using the sewing machine, never leave that needle in the up position. Take a piece of material, rotate that needle down. If you have grandkids, if you got a curious cat, they can bend that needle without you realizing they did it. And then all of a sudden, you'll sit down to sew with that machine again, and you'll be having all kinds of problems, and you won't know why. And even that stethoscope won't help you figure out that you've got a needle that's slightly bent. It'll throw off your hook timing. It'll get caught on the throat plate. It'll cause all kinds of problems. So when you're not actively sewing, take a second, put some material underneath there so you've got a barrier between the presser foot and the feed dogs. And don't do like some of those eBay sellers and demonstrate a sewing machine by firing it up and having nothing underneath there, and you're grinding the bottom of the presser foot against the feed dogs. Never, ever, ever operate a sewing machine without something between the presser foot and the feed dogs. Same thing is true when you're shipping it. Put something in between. Take a second. It only takes a second. Rotate that needle down so it's all the way down and protected down in that raceway. Okay? All right. Enough preaching about that. A little bit more rag time, and I'm going to start jumping into this, and I'll explain things as they go. And if you have a question about why am I doing what I'm doing or what am I doing, go ahead and post it in the live chat. Susie will get my attention, or one of the other moderators will get my attention, and I'll do my best to answer it for you, okay? Oh, wait. Pause. I apologize. I apologize. I get on one of these tangents and I'll forget. I never told you what these machines were back here that are going to be, one of them is going to be going back to Brooklyn, New York, to Sibel, right? It is, and I should look at the chat to see if anyone guessed it. Did anyone guess it? I can't see if anyone guessed it. Anyone guess it? No, nobody guessed it. So these are Singer 404s. They're part of the Slant-O-Matic series that first came out in 1951, okay? And they came out originally in 1951 with the Singer 301. The Singer 301 was the first in that series of Slant-O-Matic machines by Singer. The great thing about these machines was that they had a slant needle. So as that stitching was being laid down, you could see the stitching much, much sooner than a needle that goes up and down like this Model 360. So Singer had a great idea. It gave you greater visibility down at the needle. Also, they also have a vertically mounted motor over here in the pillar area that gives direct drive power. There's basically worm gears that feed off of the balance wheel to the top of the stack of that motor, and it gives you immediate direct drive power. It's like traction control on a car. There's no slippage. There's no delay. It just, boom, goes into that material fast and furious. And the 404s came on the series a lot later. They were introduced in 1958, and they were made until 1963. So again, our classroom's about learning. Now you know a little more about these machines that eventually you're going to see sitting on this workbench, and I'll be demonstrating one of these two machines. And eventually we'll be at the same stage as we are now with Greg and Melinda's machine, where we'll be carefully packing up one of these Singer 404s to go back to Brooklyn, New York, okay? So again, the 404s were introduced, if someone wants to type it into the live chat so that it's there for eternity, the 404s were introduced first in 1958, and they were produced until 1963. That's these machines back here. So nothing wrong with buying machines. I don't want to get nasty notes from eBay sellers saying, why are you dissing us? Why are you beating us up about us selling garbage? Because there are some good sellers on eBay. At one time, I sold sewing machines worldwide on eBay. I was one of those go-to guys, and I used to auction off machines, maybe like this 360 or maybe like those 404s over there. And I would have people fighting tooth and nail because when I posted, I would show that machine going through all kinds of sew-offs, kind of like we do now with like Melinda's machine here, where we do a sewing Olympics and we do a live stream and we show that machine going through the paces. We don't show still shots because there are those sellers on eBay and Etsy that will literally do sew-offs on another sewing machine and then put it with that machine they're trying to sell saying this is how this machine sews, when in fact it doesn't do that at all. So, just be aware there are those people that are not truthful out there. I hear a big truck going by outside of the workshop here, and I just realized, can you all bear with me for a second? Bear with me for a second. Basic duties are the guy usually is the one that takes out the garbage. Well, I put all the garbage out last night, all the recyclable stuff, but I did not put out the regular garbage because we've been having naughty bears in the neighborhood up here in the mountains that have been getting into our garbage. And so I did not put the cans out. So I'm going to do that real quick. Listen to some ragtime, and I'll get those cans out. Okay, all is well. The garbage men usually go up the street first to the most distant houses at the other end of the mountain, and then they circle back and they get our place. So our garbage will now be picked up today. One of those little things that you get busy in the morning, you get ready for a live stream, and you just don't think about it, right? Until I heard that big truck going up the hill here. Our hill coming up to our place up here in the mountains is kind of like this. And so you can hear those trucks, someone's getting a delivery from UPS or FedEx or something like that. You can hear those trucks just groaning as they're dropping down to the low gears to make it up our very steep hill up here in the mountains. So at any rate, just be careful if you're buying machines, wherever you're buying them. Get as much information as you can about the history of that machine. The goal, whenever possible, is to get an original owner sewing machine. In other words, you're buying a machine from the person that bought it well, especially if they bought it back in the 1940s or 50s or maybe even earlier. Sewing machines were a major expense back then, and so they generally would have taken very, very good care of them. Very good care. So whenever you can buy an original owner machine, that's like the cream of the crop. But otherwise, get as much information, get them to demonstrate the machine, or you can sew on the machine. And that way you don't end up like Sibel, buying a lemon and then having to go through a lot more process trying to get that machine that you want. But the 404 is a great machine. You'll see that soon enough on the workbench with going through a live stream demonstrating it. And then we'll get that machine shipped back to Sibel out in the great state of New York. Okay, continuing the process now of getting this machine ready to be shipped. I've got all of Melinda's and Greg's goodies inside of here. I'm going to go ahead and close this off. We'll pack this in the tote with the machine. There we go. Okay, I finally got it. So I'm going to go ahead and unplug the machine, and we're going to start the process of getting this packed up and getting ready to head to the great country of Canada. While I'm doing that, I'll go ahead and put just a little bit more music on for you. I also have to reach across to unplug it. All right. And remember, we always pack foot controllers as fragile. Pause that for a second. Your foot controllers have a lot of delicate components on the inside of them. So always pack your foot controllers as carefully as you pack the sewing machine, okay? So we're going to start with the foot controller. I'm going to use stretch wrap first, and then we'll bubble wrap around it, and then we're going to go ahead and put stretch wrap. You'll see what I do. You'll see what I do. All right, go ahead and pause this real quick. So we're taking a lot of precautions here because these foot controllers for the PFAFF machines are very, very hard to come by. So we don't want it to get damaged heading all the way back to Vancouver, British Columbia, right? So we've added a stretch wrap to keep all of the wires secure so that they're not dangling out there. I don't know if you've ever gotten a shipment with a sewing machine you bought, and you'll literally find the foot controller just kind of tumbling around inside of the box, and the cord will be wrapped around the machine. It'll be tucked, it's just all over the place. So we always safeguard these. We tuck them all in together as best as we're able to. And I've added all the additional sew-offs so that when this gets back to Canada, Melinda and Greg are able to look at the sew-offs they saw during the live stream actually touch them, actually look at the stitches and go, yeah, I remember when that one happened. I remember when that one was demonstrated. So we put all that together, and I'm still deciding. I'll probably just use some painter's tape and put the old light bulb on the inside of the machine when we pack the machine in and everything like that. Well, let's finish on the foot controller first of all. I'm going to go ahead and bring that bubble wrap around. We'll get nice protection around this foot controller so it's not going to get bounced around and damaged going all the way back there. I don't remember what the distance is, but the distance from Vancouver, British Columbia to Kentucky, and Kentucky back to this machine's going to have a lot of miles on it, to say the least. All right, so I'm going to start rolling this in with the bubble wrap. Get about 3 or 4 layers around it. Some really good protection, and I'll add more if it doesn't seem like it's enough. There we go. Yeah, that's some real nice padding. Really, really nice padding on there. And we'll add that tape to it as well, kind of secure it in place. Tape down all the edges. And we'll tuck these in as well so that it's nice and nestled around that foot controller. Okay, what we're going to be doing now is taking down the threading points on the machine to make sure that it doesn't come unthreaded in the process. It probably is very unlikely, but I always add just a little bit of tape to the threading points to make sure that the machine stays threaded the way it was when it left the workshop. That way, when Melinda sits down to this in Canada, she doesn't have to rethread the machine. She can sit down and begin enjoying it right away, and doesn't have to be concerned about looking at the operator's manual. Did I have it threaded correctly? She can see how it's threaded from the time it arrives and put it to work right away. So we'll tie down these thread points on the different points and just make sure it stays the way it's supposed to stay. You'll notice also that I taped the bobbin door closed as well. Anything that's hinged, you always want to make sure that you put just a little bit of painter's tape on there to make sure that it's held closed so that it doesn't somehow pop open, getting jostled in the process of traveling all the way back to Canada, and somehow this gets broken or damaged or bent out of shape or something like that. So I always put just a little bit of tape on there. It holds it closed, and that way we don't have any incidental damage from it getting bounced around. You can only imagine traveling from southeastern Kentucky all the way back to Vancouver, British Columbia. This machine is going to get bumped. It's probably going to get dropped in the case as well. And so we're doing everything possible to make sure it's a nice, tight package so that nothing gets damaged in the process. I'm just going to check the fit on this. I think it's going to be a little bit too snug with the bubble wrap on here. But oftentimes when you see these packing videos, you'll see me pack the foot controller inside of the harp space. And if you're brand new to sewing and you're saying, what do you mean harp? What is that? Harp space is basically this imaginary rectangle or square inside of here. The distance from the needle to the pillar, this is called the pillar. And then the distance from the bed area to the bottom of the arm. So just think of it from here to here, from here to here is called the harp space, H-A-R-P. And that's really important when you're looking at bulkier type sewing where you've got to rotate materials around. If your harp space is too small, you're going to be battling that material all the time, trying to get it to rotate around as you're stitching. And so when you're looking at a sewing machine, always look at that factor, whether it's a Singer 404 in the background or whether the next machine that's going to be coming up pretty quick as well, is it going to be this machine over here? Does anyone recognize that machine? Take a look at it real close. It's part of the same family as these machines over here from Brooklyn, New York. Take a look at it. Does anyone recognize that machine? Come on, guys. I know it's early. It's especially early for Greg. Over in Canada right now, it's 3 hours earlier. So we're going on 10 o'clock. He's only going on 7 o'clock. It's only going on 7 o'clock in Canada. So I don't know if Greg is a tea drinker or a coffee drinker, but he's got even more reason to be kind of warming up and getting his day moving because it's quite early over there in Canada right now. Not as early for a lot of you other folks, not even our California people. So, anyway, this next machine coming up, this one here, is a Singer 401A. And the Singer 401A was introduced in 1956, and it was produced until 1961. So 1956 to 1961 was the 401A, and it's a really cool machine. It's not a straight stitch only machine like Sabel's 404s. It takes cams. It has built-in cams. It'll be a real fun machine to demonstrate. And that particular machine belongs to Beth. And Beth is going to be using this machine in retirement when she retires soon enough. And she's located out in, I'm trying to remember. I get so many machines, I apologize. I've got to spin it around and see if I can look and see again. Ah, that's right. She is from Louisiana. Louisiana. So just south of us, where Susie and I are, down in Louisiana, that 401A will be heading back eventually so that Beth can enjoy that when she retires in the next couple of months or so. So all kinds of fun things happening in the workshop. It's so fun to meet people from around the country, around the world, and find out what their story is. Why did they get this machine? How did they get this machine? What's the history of the machine? How are they going to use it? It's just fun to do, isn't it? Speaking of that, I was going to go back to, I promised I would try to show you guys something, and then I forgot. We'll see if I can find those pictures of the bags that Melinda has made already, and that's how she's going to try to use this Model 360. See if I can find those pictures real quick. I might still have them on the phone. Otherwise, I know they're in a text message from Greg. Give me just a second here. I've got a really slow phone. It's a smartphone, but it's a real slow smartphone. See if I can find those pics. I'll have to go to the text message with Greg. It looks like I deleted them on my phone. I got them. I found them. Whoops. Those were, Greg just, hold on a second. Greg just went on a holiday and he shared some pictures of Vancouver. He can tell you Quebec City or something like that. I don't remember exactly what he told me. But if you've never been to Canada, if you've never been to the beautiful country of Canada, a lot of people will go to New York. They'll go to Buffalo, New York usually, and they cross the Rainbow Bridge, and then they get into Canada and they'll visit the falls there. Obviously, they'll go on the other side of Niagara Falls and they'll look at the falls from the Canadian side, which I'm sorry to say is a lot better than what you get on the New York side. No offense to our New Yorkers. I know you're proud of your Niagara Falls, But when you look at the falls from the Canadian side, oh my goodness, gravy. They are amazing. And Greg went on a holiday. If he wants to share a little bit about his holiday, he can certainly do that. But he shared some beautiful pictures with me. And I hope he doesn't mind that I show you just some of these pictures real quick, because I was like, oh my gosh, I got to go see that now. Susie and I have to take a trip and visit this area that Greg was just in, because it's just absolutely breathtaking. Don't you love the open air markets? Open air markets, they have musicians. They have musicians playing, and you can just really get an appreciation for the beauty of the culture of that city. The beauty and culture of that city is just amazing. So, but at any rate, I think you can really appreciate the beauty of the purses that Melinda's already making. And she's really going to have a lot of fun using these decorative stitches now that the machine is doing what it's supposed to be doing. So, all right, back to a little bit of music. Yeah, we can fit it in there. So we've got the foot controller. I kind of turned it sideways, and we've got it tucked in the harp space now. So what I'm going to do now is we've got all the critical anchor points and pivot points and threading and everything anchored down now properly with a little bit of painter's tape. Now we're going to go around the machine, and we're going to use stretch wrap to tighten the package up. And then eventually we're going to go from that to putting bubble wrap around it, and then more stretch wrap. And then ultimately we're going to tape it in place and get kind of a cocoon around Greg's and Melinda's sewing machine. I should just say Melinda's machine. Greg was just a good friend helping Melinda out, getting the machine here. I need to just take Greg out of the equation now. No offense, Greg, and say Melinda's machine. I'll get it right. So we just added that old LED bulb, and we're going to put it right there. Actually, I'm going to do one other thing real quick. I've had a couple of PFAFF sewing machines like this over the years that have arrived in really good condition, but one part can get damaged. It's a little bit more vulnerable, and it's the on-off switch right here. It's plastic, and it can get caught. It's just vulnerable. So I'm just going to grab a little piece of bubble wrap, and you'll see me kind of pad that. And I might also pad Control C a little bit as well. Control C up here is also made out of a polymer plastic material. We might also pad that one. Control E is on top. I'm not concerned about that, but you'll see me add a little bit of extra padding to these two areas, and then we should be in good shape. All right, I'm just going to look at the machine again. Look at the machine again and just see if there's any other areas. I sometimes will add a little bit of extra padding to the upper tension control as well. But the upper tension control right now on this machine, this Model 360, is all metal. So unlike some of the other ones that have plastic components, this one is metal. So I'm not as concerned about that one. So I think we'll just go ahead and work around it with the stretch wrap. We'll add that all of that padding that we're going to add with the bubble wrap, and we'll get this packing job heading that towards that point of completion. We must have just gotten a delivery here because I think that was Hank barking. All right, a little bit more music on for y'all. Starting to look like a spider web, isn't it? Kind of like a spider web. That was a short amount of rag time. That's kind of disappointing. What else do we have? There we go. That's our end. Ha ha! I thought we were reaching the end. I go through a lot of tape when I'm packing, to say the least. I hate to interrupt Mozart, but you can see what I did is I rotated the machine around so you could see that we totally cocooned the machine so that nothing inside of the box, like the packing peanuts, is going to get into the machine. You know what I mean? Any of the orifices on the machine, those little packing peanuts can break up and then get jammed inside of the machine and cause problems for you. I've actually received machines from customers like that where they didn't cocoon it, and I found a packing peanut on the inside of the machine. So we take every safeguard to make sure that the machine is basically sealed off from the world. And now we're adding all of the padding and protection to all sides of the machine. You'll also see me create padding for the bottom as well, so that as it gets shocked, even though it's going to have a bed of peanuts underneath it, we're still going to create that extra cocoon of protection directly with the package of the machine. You'll see what I mean. See if you were counting how many layers. I'm going to stop at some point, and if you want to type in the live chat, how many layers of bubble wrap around Melinda's machine? If you get it right, you're going to be the smartest student in the classroom for the day, and you might even get a special gift mailed to you. So pay attention, and hopefully you can catch how many layers. All right, I'm just going to look at the live chat real quick and see if anyone got it. No one guessed. So I'm going to tell you that typically, depending on the machine and the makeup, how much plastic there is on the machine, we usually go anywhere from 6 to 8 layers of bubble wrap. 6 to 8 layers of bubble wrap is the equivalent of probably about 10 to 12 millimeters of protection. That's a lot of protection. And now what you're going to see me do is you're going to see me anchor this in with the stretch wrap, and then I'll add padding to the top, and we'll add padding to the bottom, and we'll be in real good shape. I didn't plan that, but I ended right at the end of that piece. That was kind of cool. So think about the process we've taken Melinda's machine through so far. We started with stretch wrap to cocoon everything in, including the foot controller. We got that foot controller into the harp space so that it's got the body of the machine as even added protection. But we also protected the foot controller by adding stretch wrap and adding bubble wrap and just really cocooning that in as well. So it's like a cocoon within a cocoon. And then after that, adding the stretch wrap around the machine to lock that foot controller in place and all the other components of the machine, along with all the painter's tape we put down to anchor any of the spots that would possibly get jostled loose in the process. We then added 7 layers of bubble wrap around the machine. And then we tucked that in nice and tight. We sucked it into the machine using the stretch wrap, and then we anchored that down with the tape, the packing tape. So right now, if I rotate the machine around, you're going to be like, holy mackerel, what are you expecting? A nuclear war? No, what we're expecting is that while this package is traveling that distance from southeastern Kentucky all the way to Vancouver, British Columbia, it's going to get banged, it's going to get bumped, it's going to get dropped, and we're taking every precaution to try to protect it. I mean, it's precious, it's irreplaceable, and Melinda, you can imagine she would be heartbroken if the machine arrived damaged. So we're always trying to safeguard it, whether it's going from here to Canada or to Switzerland or wherever it is. We've got to do our best to protect it. Now we're going to be focusing on protecting the top and then ultimately the bottom of the machine as well. I cannot get a break. All of my Sharpies are dried out a little bit. I'm going to find one more. Hold on a second. I know it probably seems a little bit cheeky or a little bit hokey, but I always write a message to the machine owner. So, and sometimes it's a little bit more lengthy, sometimes it's very concise. All I put on it was enjoy, Melinda. So I hope she really does enjoy this machine now that it's back to greatness. And now we've got a great cocoon of protection on all sides of this machine, except for the bottom. So you'll see me focus on the bottom next, now that we have all the other sides safeguarded. And I'll just mention for those of you watching now or watching later for this packing video, uh, we've done a great job. We've done a great job of really setting this machine up to arrive safely in Canada. But there's always those things. So on the bottom, instead of doing about 6 to 8 layers, I'm probably going to do 10 to 12 layers of padding on the bottom. And we can certainly use pool noodles. I've used that in the past. Pool noodles are a great thing to put on the bottom. I don't know if I have any. I think we might have donated them to a local church thrift shop. I'll end up getting more probably for other packing videos. But right now we'll use bubble wrap, and we'll just create a huge pad on the bottom. So on top of those packing peanuts, it'll have a nice cushy ride. And also, it's a little bit minutia, I know, but I always put the bubbles facing out so that it's like a layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of almost like an airbag to safeguard the machine. So when I did the upper level, the top, all the bubbles are facing out to take that impact and to create that cushion. Same thing on the bottom. Okay. So when all is said and done, this is the level of protection we'll have on the bottom. You can kind of see the thickness of that. If you need a perspective, it's probably, 2.5 inches or so, almost 3 inches of protection. That'll be on the bottom as a cushion for the machine to ride on. That was a cool song. All right, I'm going to pause it real quick, the music. So that's pretty much the process that you've seen now. I don't think it's overly complicated, but it is fairly complicated. So if you want to rewind it later and kind of watch the steps again, each step has a point and a purpose. And now we've got a machine that is incredibly well protected on all fronts. We kind of turn it around like this. You can see all sides have a huge amount of protection because it's going to take a lot of bumps and a lot of drops and everything else traveling all the way to Vancouver, British Columbia. We've got extra padding on the top to safeguard the top of the machine as well. And also on the bottom, we've added about 2 to 2.5 inches of additional padding on the bottom. And I'm going to add a little bit more tape just to reinforce that. The bubble wrap by itself, it just doesn't have the stability and the rigidity that I like. So I add that extra packing tape, and it just really just tightens it up. It tightens it up and makes it incredibly resolute when it comes to standing all those bumps and drops and everything else. So after that, what I'll do is I may not demonstrate all of it, but I'll create a bed of peanuts in the bottom of the plastic tote, which basically makes the tote weatherproof. If it arrives in Canada and it's raining, the machine is not going to get wet because the container will safeguard it. And then I'll end up drilling holes all the way around using zip ties and anchor the top of the lid to it so it can't come loose. Susie will help print the label, and then we'll get this machine in the next couple of days heading to the Great White North. Is that what they call it? Is Canada the Great White North, or is that Alaska? I always mess it up. At any rate, it'll start heading to Canada. if you see me running my hands over the packing job, I'm not being weird. I'm not caressing the machine. Well, maybe a little bit, because I really do kind of fall in love with all the machines that come across the workbench. We spend a lot of time together, and I see them arrive sometimes in critical condition, very, very sick. And through the process of workshop magic, I take them back to a point where they're vibrant and alive again. And then I have to say goodbye and send this away, like losing a child almost, sending that child away back to Canada to have fun with Melinda in her workshop, and her creative workshop, I should say. And so, but I'm also checking for any gaps or any points where the tape didn't cover the bubble wrap. I want to make sure that it's all sealed nice and tight so that nothing can come loose. Well, I want to thank everybody. I know that watching a packing job isn't nearly as exciting as watching the machine operate. I get it. But what's the point of putting all the work and getting the machine back to a point where it's able to do all the magic that it can do to delight that sewist and then have it arrive damaged? So I want you to understand it's a complete circle from the point of having a sick machine arrive, getting it back to wellness again, and then safeguarding it so it can get back to that sewist and delight them in all the magic that it can bring to their projects. So I want to wish you all a great rest of the week. God bless you. I'm going to finish the process off camera of simply getting this machine into the tote, strapping down the top of the tote, like I said, drilling points and using zip ties to anchor that lid, and then get that label on there and get it dropped off to probably UPS to head back to UPS International to head back to Canada. So take care. Thanks to Greg and Melinda for the opportunity of being able to bring magic to this great machine. Have fun with it. And all of you out there, otherwise, take a trip to Canada and wave at Vancouver to Greg and Melinda, knowing that they're having fun with this great machine. Take care. God bless.